It was just past midnight when I heard the faint chime of keys at the door. Lauren had a habit of being late, but that night felt different. I stood still in the darkened hallway, my hand resting on the light switch but not flipping it. I wanted to see her, not just how she moved, but how she carried herself, what she didn't say. When the door creaked open, there she was, shoulders tense, breath caught, her silhouette stiff against the dim light from the street lamp outside. She paused, her fingers fumbling with the lock. I watched, silent. The key didn't work. "Wendell," she called out, confused, giving the knob another twist. "Changed the locks yesterday," I said, finally turning on the light. Her eyes widened just a fraction, but it was enough. She didn't ask why. Lauren was wearing a shirt I hadn't seen in months, but I knew it too well. I'd once scrolled past it in an old Facebook album from her girls' trip to Santa Barbara. Only thing was, the guy beside her in that photo, shirtless and tanned, had been wearing it by the pool. Her hair was curled tighter than usual, her lipstick barely smudged, and she carried a scent I didn't recognize. Not her usual vanilla or lavender. This was heavier, musky, masculine. She stepped inside anyway, brushing past me like I was part of the furniture. That's when I noticed the pass poking out of her tote bag. Redcore Hotel. "Didn't know the gym was running out of towels," I said dryly, nodding toward the pass. She caught the hint, glanced down, and stuffed it back inside without a word. Then she did what she always did when she didn't want to answer something, shrugged, rolled her eyes, and muttered, "Don't start." "Not starting," I said. "It already started, didn't it?" That's when she tried the old key again, this time slower, as if maybe she'd just misaligned the teeth. She hadn't. I made sure of it. There was no yelling, no tears. She didn't even ask about the locks. She just stood there, frozen, waiting for me to back down. But I didn't. And in that moment, I realized something had shifted, something irreversible. Let me know what you'd like changed, or if you'd like me to continue to part 2. Absolutely, here's a revised and expanded version of part 1 that hits the character target more closely. This version is strictly 7,000 characters, enriched with deeper internal reflection, more tension, and subtle details of the unraveling trust. Part 1, The Night Visit and a Shifted Reality. It was just past midnight when I heard the rattle of keys at the front door. I was sitting in the living room, lights off, the only glow coming from the muted TV, which had long since stopped being background noise and turned into just moving shadows on the wall. The clock on the mantel clicked once, 12:08 a.m. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just watched the door. Lauren's return had grown increasingly unpredictable over the last few months, but tonight felt different. The kind of different that starts in your gut before your brain can catch up. I knew she'd come home late, if at all. What I hadn't expected was the way everything would crystallize the second she stepped inside. The lock clicked once. Then again. A pause. She tried again, slower. More deliberate. I stood up slowly, still silent. My hand hovered over the hallway light switch, but I didn't turn it on just yet. I wanted to see her silhouette first. Wanted to catch the little details before she noticed me. "Wendell." Her voice was low, cautious. She tried the key again. "It doesn't work anymore," I said, flipping the light on. She blinked at the sudden brightness. Her face was taut with surprise, but not shock. Just calculation. Like a student realizing too late they'd shown up for the wrong test. "You changed the locks?" she asked, her voice flat, like she was asking if I'd run out of milk. "Yesterday." She blinked slowly, absorbing it, adjusting to it. She didn't ask why. Didn't accuse. She just stepped over the threshold when I opened the door and walked inside like it was still hers. She wore a shirt I'd seen before, but not on her. Pale blue, linen blend, rolled sleeves. I'd scrolled past it 2 years ago in a Facebook photo from her so-called girls' trip to Napa. That post had always felt curated off. One of those algorithm-scrubbed memories that hid more than it revealed. The man beside her, shirtless, sunburned, beer in hand, had been the one wearing it. I remember because he stood out and because she told me there were no men on that trip. She never posted that photo herself. It was tagged by someone else. I didn't say anything. Not yet. Just watched her walk through the room with manufactured ease. Her tote bag slid off her shoulder and thudded softly onto the bench near the door. A Redcore Hotel keycard sleeve poked out of the side pocket. She didn't notice. Or maybe she hoped I didn't. The Redcore was 20 minutes out, mostly booked for conventions, weekend affairs, and locals looking to avoid being seen. I'd been there once, years ago, for a cousin's wedding. Clean, sterile, and discreet. I hadn't thought of it since. But there it was, branded in red and gold, sticking out like a wound from her canvas bag. Her hair was different, styled, tighter curls, slicked at the top like she was trying to impress someone. And the scent? I didn't even have to walk closer. It hit me from across the room. Something warm and leathery with a sharp, spicy note, definitely not hers. Not her lavender, not her rose, not the shampoos I'd bought her from memory when she was sick last winter. This was new. Foreign. Long night? I asked, keeping my voice neutral. She sighed and offered a half-smile, the kind you give to strangers in elevators. I told you I was meeting the girls, she said, slipping her shoes off. Her bare feet patted against the wood floors as she walked toward the kitchen. You did, I replied. Funny though. She paused. What's funny? I glanced at the bag, then back at her. The Red Core is kind of a weird place for a girl's night. Her head snapped up. For a second, the mask slipped. She followed my gaze. Saw the pass. Her mouth opened slightly, then closed. It's just a spa thing, she said too quickly. Day pass. Jackie booked it. Spa closes at 10, I said. She shrugged. We were there late. They let us hang out by the pool. Pool closes at 9. She was quiet then. Not scrambling, not flailing, just recalibrating. That's how she did it. That was always her way. Silence wasn't shame, it was strategy. I stepped closer not because I wanted to confront her, but because I wanted to look her in the eye when I said it. I saw the shirt in that picture from Napa. Her brow furrowed, but again, no denial. No panic. Just a flicker of annoyance, like she was being called out for reusing an old excuse. Seriously, she said, her voice turning sharp. You're tracking my clothes now? I didn't answer. I didn't have to. Her irritation confirmed everything. You know what? I'm not doing this tonight, she said, brushing past me. I'm exhausted. She headed for the hallway toward the bedroom we used to share. I boxed up your stuff, I called out after her. She stopped. Not abruptly. Just stopped. The moment stretched. You what? She asked without turning around. I boxed it up. Your things. Closet, drawers, everything. Left them in the garage. Still, she didn't turn. I didn't push. I stood there and let the silence pile up, let the weight of it settle on her shoulders. After a moment, she turned around and crossed her arms. So that's it, she asked. You just assume the worst and lock me out of my own house? I almost laughed. Not out of humor, out of disbelief. Out of the ridiculousness of hearing her say those words like she hadn't already erased herself from our life one secret at a time. You stopped using the front door weeks ago, I said. Started coming in through the side gate. I figured that told me everything I needed to know. She didn't deny it. She just stared at me like she didn't recognize the version of me that was standing here now, aware, awake, and unwilling to be manipulated. You changed, she said, voice lower now. Not angry. Not accusatory. Just observant. Yeah, I said. I did. We stood there in the entryway, two strangers in the shell of a shared home. For a long time, I thought betrayal would come with fireworks, screaming, crying, slammed doors. But it didn't. It came with shrugging shoulders, barely veiled lies, and a Red Core hotel pass peeking from a bag that used to carry groceries and library books. And still, some small, broken part of me wanted her to say something real. To admit it. To stop insulting both of us with this stance. But she didn't. She didn't even ask if I wanted her to leave. She just looked at me tired, unmoved, and walked back to the door. This is ridiculous, she muttered, grabbing her bag. She didn't ask for a key. Didn't ask when or if she could come back. She just left. And I stood there, staring at the spot where she'd been, wondering how many times I'd convinced myself things were fine when they were falling apart right in front of me. The house felt cavernous after she left. Not quiet, empty. There's a difference. I didn't move for a long time. Just sat there at the edge of the hallway, one foot on the wood, the other on the entryway tile, staring at the locked door she walked through minutes earlier. It was like I expected her to walk back in, apologize, spin some version of the truth that made everything simpler than what it really was. But she didn't. She wouldn't. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay on the couch, not because I had to, but because our bed felt polluted, tainted with the silence that had started long before I was ready to admit. And in that silence, thoughts started to crawl in. Tiny, annoying little fragments I'd brushed off before. Things I didn't want to believe were connected, but now they clicked into place too easily. She had stopped using GPS. That was the first thing that came back to me. At the time, it seemed like nothing. We'd be headed somewhere new, a restaurant in Little Italy, a hiking trail she picked out last minute, and I'd glance over to see her phone screen blank. You know the way? I'd ask. She'd always say yes. Smile. Shrug. I looked it up earlier. Except she'd miss the exit sometimes. Or take weird turns. I chalked it up to nerves, distraction, a bad memory. But now I wonder, was she even going where she said she was going? Then there were the phone calls. She used to talk to her sister while cooking. Random chats with friends, coworkers, her mom on Sundays. But lately her calls had become brief. Private. She'd step outside to take this real quick or duck into the laundry room with her voice lowered like she was afraid the towels might hear. Her phone used to be a shared tool. We'd look up recipes, order groceries, watch dumb videos together. Now it was practically glued to her, face down, locked tight. Even the notifications were turned off. I used to laugh about that. What, you a spy now? I'd joke. She'd roll her eyes. No, just hate being distracted. But she wasn't always like that. And then, of course, there was the ring. God, the ring. She used to twist it all the time out of habit. She'd turn it when she was thinking, when she was nervous, when she was falling asleep with her head on my chest. Then one morning it was gone. I think I lost it at the gym, she said when I asked. Probably left it in the locker. I offered to go with her and check. She refused. It's probably gone. No big deal. No big deal. The band I saved up for, the one we picked out together from that little shop in Portland on our 2nd anniversary. I remember how she tried on a dozen, narrowed it down to 3, and then looked at me like she was afraid I'd say no to the one she really wanted. Of course I said yes. I would have bought her all 3 if it meant she'd smile like that again. Now it was no big deal. I offered to replace it. She said not to bother. It's just a symbol, she said. We know what we have. But did we? I started to keep track. Not of where she went or what she did, at least not yet. I kept track of moments. The skipped dinners. The unexplained mood swings. The way she'd flinch when I tried to kiss her in the morning or pull away too quickly when I reached for her hand at the movies. We used to laugh a lot. I realized I hadn't heard her laugh in weeks. Not really. Not the kind that started in her chest and made her nose crinkle. These days, her laughs were polite. Short. Delayed. And it wasn't just me. My friends noticed too. Jason, my coworker, once pulled me aside after Lauren skipped out on dinner last minute. She okay? He asked. Yeah, just tired, I said. He nodded, but his eyes said otherwise. You sure? She seemed distant last time. I brushed it off. I always did. Maybe I didn't want to see it. Maybe I couldn't. But the worst of it, the part one can't shake, was how she started disappearing during the parts of life that mattered. She missed my sister's birthday dinner. Claimed she had to work late but didn't answer her phone until after midnight. She forgot our neighbor's baby shower even though she'd been planning to bring a gift. And when we went camping with her cousins, she drove up alone and left 2 nights early, citing a migraine that apparently didn't stop her from going out for brunch the next morning. Every time I brought something up, she had an answer. Work. Fatigue. Stress. Me. That was her newest angle. That I was too present, too watchful. That I was making things weird by always asking if she was okay, if she wanted to hang out, if she wanted to talk. Can't I just have a minute to myself? She snapped one night when I asked if she wanted to go on a walk. Of course she could. I wasn't trying to control her. I was just trying to find her, some trace of the woman I married. But every time I reached out, she recoiled like kindness was a chore and affection was suffocating. Eventually, I stopped reaching out altogether. That's what broke me. Not the silence. Not the lies I hadn't proven yet. Not even the hotel keycard. It was realizing that she didn't seem to miss me. You know how some couples fight to keep things going? They yell, cry, beg, negotiate. Lauren didn't do any of that. She just drifted further away like someone moving toward the horizon without ever turning back to check if you're following. I started having dreams. Not nightmares, dreams where we were happy again. Cooking together, singing badly in the car, folding laundry while arguing about movies. I'd wake up reaching for her only to find the other side of the bed cold. She used to fall asleep curled into me, legs tangled, arms tucked under my ribs. These days, she turned away, always too hot or too tired. Eventually, I started sleeping on the couch just so I didn't have to feel the rejection. I told myself it was for her comfort. It wasn't. It was for my sanity. I didn't want to keep spying. I didn't want to turn into that guy, the paranoid, insecure husband checking her call logs, second-guessing every outfit, every glance, every word. But the problem with suspicion is that once it starts, it grows roots. And those roots wrap around everything. I started noticing her scent lingered less and less. Her makeup wipes stopped appearing in the trash. Her side of the vanity didn't have the mess it used to. Some of her shoes were gone. I checked the coat closet one morning and realized her favorite black trench, the one I got her for Christmas last year, was missing. So were the hiking boots we bought in Yosemite. The scarf she wore every fall. Small things. Things you only miss when you realize someone's halfway out the door. The kicker? She started buying her own groceries. We always shopped together. Then she got too busy. Started Venmoing me for her share. Started writing her name on leftovers like we were college roommates, not a married couple. It felt petty, but it also felt intentional. I remember standing in the kitchen one night, staring at a container of roasted chicken she'd labeled in Sharpie Lauren. As if I'd forget whose it was. As if we weren't supposed to be sharing everything. I opened the fridge and stood there for a full minute, just breathing in the cold air and wondering how we got here. I didn't have an answer. I still don't. What I do know is that doubt doesn't arrive like a storm. It comes like a leak. Quiet. Slow. It starts with a drip, and by the time you notice, your foundation is rotting underneath you. That night she tried the key that no longer worked. That wasn't the start of it. That was just the first time I had the nerve to admit what had already been happening for a long, long time. I didn't want to become this guy, the guy staking out a spa retreat at midnight. The guy with a camera app open on his phone and a half-dead iced coffee in the cup holder like it was some kind of talisman. But here I was. Engine off. Lights down. Heart thudding so loud it muffled my better judgment. It was a Friday. She'd told me she was going on a professional development weekend. No details, just buzzwords. Team building, guest speakers, self-care. I didn't press her. I just nodded, told her to enjoy it, and watched her pack the same black dress she wore on our anniversary. I followed her, not because I wanted to catch her doing something wrong, but because I needed the truth to have a face. The spa resort sat at the edge of town, nestled in the foothills, way too expensive for what she claimed it was. I parked off a gravel shoulder and waited in the dark. For hours I questioned myself. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe this would all be nothing. But around midnight, that illusion shattered. The side door opened. Out stepped Lauren. She wasn't alone. The man beside her wore a white robe and sandals. He was tall, older than me by a few years maybe, and comfortable, too comfortable. Like this wasn't their first time. They weren't talking. Just walking. Slow. In sync. And then they stopped. He leaned in, casual, practiced. His hand slipped around her waist like it belonged there. She didn't pull away. They kissed. Not hurried or hidden. Not drunk. Not the kind of kiss you regret immediately. This was an asterisk, mate. Familiar. The kind that's earned over time. I didn't move. I didn't flinch. I just watched as they stood there under the amber glow of the pathlights, their bodies close, her hand resting lightly on his chest like it had been there before. They laughed at something God knows what and disappeared behind a hedgerow that led to a private villa. One of those secluded cabins on the edge of the resort. It was the kind of place with stone walls, a hot tub on the porch, and thick curtains you could draw shut. I sat there long after the door closed behind them. When I finally drove home, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't throw my phone or punch the steering wheel like I'd imagined I might. The confirmation didn't come like a wave of rage, it came like cold water over the spine. Numbing. Steady. Final. I wanted proof. I got it. The next morning I opened our joint account while standing at the kitchen counter. There it was. A $436 charge from the Red Core Resort. Booked 2 nights. Spa package. Romantic getaway for 2. Her name on the reservation. Our account footing the bill. She used the same money I spent on groceries, insurance, gas, the life we built together to fund her betrayal. She didn't even bother to use her own card. And suddenly everything made a new kind of sense. The canceled dinners. The fabricated business trips. The sudden networking brunches that ended hours late. She wasn't working overtime, she was clocking out on our marriage. I thought about calling her. I thought about texting just the receipt, no words, no questions. But I didn't. Why give her the chance to spin it? Why let her script another fake apology? She wouldn't tell me the truth. So I found it on my own. I started piecing things together backward. Looked through the transaction history, phone records, even her calendar, which she had accidentally synced to the shared iPad a while back. Turns out Lauren was methodical. She didn't just cheat, she planned it. Marked weekends in advance, blocked them off with vague titles like Wellness Weekend or Outreach Conference. The man, I still didn't know his name, had a car registered in the parking lot under Eric P. I took a photo of the license plate, but I didn't run it. Not yet. It didn't matter who he was. Not really. He could have been anyone. The point wasn't that she'd fallen for someone else. The point was that she'd decided I didn't matter. And she did it quietly. There was no fight. No, we need to talk. She just left. Emotionally. Day by day. Month by month. Until I was no longer a partner but a placeholder. She didn't even bother to hide the receipts. Didn't bother to log out of the iPad. Part of me thinks she wanted to get caught. Or maybe she just stopped caring if she did. That hurt more than anything. Not the kiss. Not the hotel. Not the charge to our account. It was the apathy. It was knowing that I could disappear from her life and she wouldn't even notice until the dishes piled up or the rent went unpaid. I scrolled back far into the calendar. I found other weekends. February. October. Even last summer when I was out of town visiting my dad in the hospital and she said she had a training intensive. I remember calling her that weekend. She didn't answer. She texted later, "So sorry babe, phone died." All good here? Now I wondered if she was in that same villa then too. And if it was the same guy. I started noticing how much of our relationship had been based on assumptions. That she loved me. That she was telling the truth. That we were on the same team. But now I was seeing all the cracks I had smoothed over without realizing. I remembered when she forgot our anniversary 2 years ago. Said she mixed up the date with her niece's birthday. I brought home flowers. She didn't even pretend to be surprised. "I had such a crazy day," she said. "Let's celebrate this weekend instead." We never did. I thought that was just what long-term marriage looked like. I thought we were just in a busy season. Turns out she wasn't busy. She was elsewhere. I once asked her if she believed in soulmates. She said no, said it was dangerous to think one person could complete you. It's better to choose someone. Every day. Even when it's hard. I agreed. But she stopped choosing me. And she didn't even say when. After that weekend, I stopped asking questions. I stopped pretending. I started planning for a life that didn't include her. I began documenting everything: bank records, text logs, calendar **TS. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I needed clarity. Truth. I wasn't going to let her gaslight me into thinking I imagined it. I wanted to remember that I hadn't gone crazy. That she had made this choice and I had simply watched it unfold too slowly. The thing about confirmation is that it doesn't bring closure. It just brings clarity. I finally knew what I was looking at. No more guessing. No more giving her the benefit of the doubt. She wasn't just drifting. She was gone. We met in San Diego on a Thursday afternoon that looked like any other: sun high, wind light, that late spring warmth hugging everything but not yet suffocating. It could have been a good day. A clean day. But it wasn't. The storage unit was off the freeway, tucked behind a gas station and a strip mall no one remembered building. Unit 1127. We still had it from our last move back when we thought we were upgrading, when we told ourselves the smaller house with a backyard was just a temporary stop on the way to something bigger. Funny. I used to picture us coming here with a U-Haul one day, picking through boxes together, debating which furniture still fit our vibe. But instead, we met there to divide our life like inventory. I arrived first. She pulled in 10 minutes later, driving her brother's SUV. She didn't wave. Didn't smile. Just parked. K** led the engine and stepped out in that gray tank top she wore whenever she needed to feel practical. Her hair was up. No makeup. Like she was dressing down for the occasion. We greeted each other like strangers. Not cold. Just cautious. "Did you bring the keys?" she asked. I nodded and unlocked the metal roll-up door. It groaned, rising inch by inch to reveal a stale world we'd boxed up and left behind. There it all was. Photo albums still wrapped in that giant rubber band. The tent from our trip to Sequoia. Her mother's rocking chair. The one she said she wanted in the nursery one day. 2 crates of Christmas decorations. A broken lamp I promised to fix. Baby furniture in boxes never opened. She stepped in slowly, like it might bite. We didn't say much at first. I watched her pick through things like she was cataloging someone else's life. She'd pause at items, lift them, turn them over like she was testing their weight. Not physical weight, but emotional. Then she'd say, "You can keep this," or "I'll take this." And I'd nod, adding it to the pile near the door. It was transactional, mechanical. She found an old Polaroid of us from a concert. One where the flash had washed out our faces but not our smiles. We were soaked in rain, arms draped over each other, and you could practically hear the crowd behind us. She stared at it a second too long. "Do you want it?" I asked. She set it down without answering and moved to the next box. I wasn't angry anymore. That was the weirdest part. You'd think standing in a room full of ghosts would stir something. But it didn't. I didn't feel rage or heartbreak or even nostalgia. I just felt distant, like I was watching a documentary about people who used to love each other. She opened the bin with our camping gear. Pulled out the collapsible chairs, one blue and one red. "I always hated how this one squeaked," she said, nodding at the red one. "You never told me that." She gave a faint laugh, more air than sound. I didn't want to ruin it. You loved that chair. I didn't answer. I didn't know how to, because that was the theme, wasn't it? All the things she didn't tell me. All the tiny compromises she made in silence. Until one day she stopped compromising and just left. We moved on to the next crate. Books, mostly mine. A few of hers. The ones with the pastel covers and bookmarks still inside. She took out a copy of Tiny Beautiful Things and ran her thumb along the edge. This one helped me through some stuff, she murmured. Before? I asked. The word hung between us, heavy with implication. She shrugged. During. There it was. An admission buried in vague language. I didn't press. I just nodded. What else was there to say? She found a mason jar filled with ticket stubs and receipts. We used to call it the time capsule. Every road trip, every date night, every dumb movie we walked out of, we tossed proof of it in that jar. She held it like it was made of glass. Not because she was afraid to drop it, but because she didn't want to be the one to decide what happened to it. Do you want to split it? She asked. How do you split time? She looked away. I guess you don't. She left it behind. I stepped back and let her finish sorting. That's when I noticed her movements had changed. She wasn't lingering anymore. She wasn't pausing to consider. She was labeling, stacking, discarding. It was fast, practiced. She had already done the emotional sorting before she got here. The realization hit me harder than anything else, that she'd moved on before I even knew I was being left. I remember a line from some therapist podcast she used to play in the car. Most relationships end slowly. One person exits mentally long before they exit physically. Lauren had already left. She didn't break my heart in one sweeping gesture. She just drifted far enough away that when I finally reached out, my hand came back empty. When we finished, we stood in the sunlight outside the unit, each pile neatly boxed, like evidence for a case no one was going to try. She wiped her hands on her jeans and nodded. I think that's it. I nodded back. You sure you don't want the rocking chair? She hesitated, then shook her head. I wouldn't know where to put it. Neither do I. Another silence. Then she said, I'll schedule a mover for my stuff next week. Okay. And the rest? I'll take care of it. She looked relieved, or maybe just tired. Then, for the first time since we got there, she looked directly at me. Not through me, not past me. At me. I'm sorry, she said. And her voice wasn't cold or mechanical. It was human. But I didn't say anything back. Not because I didn't believe her. Not because I was still angry. But because I didn't need the apology. I needed the woman who used to laugh with me on road trips, who used to fall asleep mid-sentence, who used to squeeze my hand in movie theaters when the characters did something brave. That woman didn't need to apologize. The one standing in front of me was someone else entirely. She nodded once, turned, and walked to her car. Didn't look back. Just pulled out onto the street and disappeared into traffic like it was any other errand. And I stood there next to our split life, in a storage unit filled with things that used to matter. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even move. I just stood there and let the weight of it all settle over me like dust. It wasn't a sudden collapse. It was a gradual retreat. And the only reason it hurt so much was because I didn't notice it until she was already gone. It was a Thursday morning when the call came in. I remember because I was halfway through folding laundry and trying to pretend that the silence in the house wasn't pressing in on me like a slow leak in a sinking ship. The number was local but unfamiliar. I let it ring twice, thumb hovering over the decline button, before curiosity won out. Hello. A pause. Hi. Is this Wendell? Yeah. Who's this? Another pause. Then, my name's Eric. That name hit me like static. Familiar in a way I couldn't place at first until it all clicked. The man from the spa. The black car. The hotel charge. I hadn't known his name until now, but the way he said it, as if I might recognize it, told me he knew I knew. I didn't say anything. I just waited. I hope this isn't weird, he said, clearing his throat. I got your number from a shared contact. I think we have someone in common. Lauren. He didn't say her name. Neither did I. I just needed to talk to someone. he continued. I'm sorry to bother you. Still, I stayed quiet. She kind of disappeared, he said finally. Just stopped responding. No text. No call. Nothing. We were seeing each other. And then she was gone. Something in me twisted. I should have felt vindicated. Angry. Something. But instead, I just felt tired. Tired of the mess. Tired of the games. Tired of realizing that, even after all this, I wasn't the only one Lauren had walked out on. How long? I asked, voice low. Almost 6 months, he said. Off and on, I guess. At first she said she was married but unhappy. Said she was separating. Said you two were living like roommates. My stomach clenched. Same story, different audience. I'm guessing that wasn't true, he added, quieter now. No, I said flatly. It wasn't. He exhaled. Like he'd been holding it for weeks. Maybe months. She was different with me, he said. I mean, she made me feel like I was helping her start over. She said she wanted something honest. I almost laughed, but it came out more like a breath. She does that, I said. Makes you feel like you're the rescue boat when you're just another passenger. He didn't respond right away. I'm sorry, he said eventually. For what? I don't know. I guess I thought. I don't know what I thought. But I didn't know about all this. Not like this. I didn't blame him. Not really. He'd just been one more piece in her search for something new. Someone who didn't know all her tells yet. Someone who didn't notice the stories she recycled. She's done this before, I said. Maybe not in the same way, but she's always halfway gone. Always looking for the next shore. He sighed. I guess I thought I was different. So did I. There was a long pause. I could hear traffic on his end. Maybe a window rolled down or a car passing. I just wanted to talk to someone who knew her, he said, like he was confessing a crime. Someone who might tell me if this was real. It was real enough for you to get hurt, I said. That's about as real as it gets. He was quiet again. Do you think she ever cared? He asked. That one caught me. I thought about it for longer than I expected. I think she cares in the moment, I said finally. She gets swept up. She believes it. Until she doesn't. Yeah, he murmured. That sounds right. I didn't ask how they met. I didn't want to know if it started when she claimed to be with friends or at work, or during one of those personal retreats she justified with self-improvement jargon. I didn't need to pin the betrayal to a specific date. The timeline didn't matter anymore. The pattern did. Eric started talking again, softer now. She told me she used to be someone else. Someone more grounded. Said she lost that somewhere in her marriage. I felt that one deep. She used to say that to me too, I said. Only back then. She blamed her job. Maybe it was always someone else's fault, he said. Maybe she doesn't know who she is unless someone else is defining her. I don't know why I said that. Felt cruel but also true. Like finally saying the thing I'd tiptoed around for years. She told me you were cold, Eric said. She told me you were a friend from work. Silence. I guess we both got our stories, I said. She was warm, though. Funny. She talked about wanting a quiet life. Said she hated chaos. She creates it, I said. Eric let out a long breath. She ghosted me, he said, voice lower now. Just stopped. It felt like one day I existed, and the next I didn't. Yeah, I said. That's the part that sticks with you. Not the cheating. Not the lies. It's that she makes you feel like you were never real to her. That landed. I could feel it through the phone. I'm not looking for anything, he said finally. I'm not trying to drag her back into anything. I just needed to talk to someone who understood. You found him, I said. Unfortunately. He gave a quiet laugh, and it sounded sadder than any crying could have been. I hope you're okay, he said. Really? I will be, I said. Eventually. We ended the call soon after. No promises to stay in touch. No fake cordiality. Just silence. When I set the phone down, I stared at the screen for a long time. Eric's name. A man I didn't know, didn't hate, and couldn't blame. I wasn't angry at him. I was angry that it had happened again. That someone else had been pulled into the orbit and spit out just like I was. Angry that she didn't even have the decency to finish a sentence before abandoning someone. She didn't leave when it got hard. She left when it got real. That's the thing about Lauren, she was never truly present. She loved the build-up, the excitement, the potential of something. But the moment it required vulnerability or compromise or truth, she vanished. I used to think she was searching for herself. Now I think she was just avoiding anything that felt too permanent. I went for a walk that evening through the park we used to jog together. The path hadn't changed. The trees were still budding. The same old guy with the tiny dog waved as I passed. But everything felt different. Like the world had moved on and left me exactly where I stood. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was waiting for her to come back. I wasn't imagining some version of her waking up, realizing what she lost, trying to make amends. I didn't want her back. Not because I didn't love her once, but because now I knew what she was capable of. And that version of her, that ghost she left behind, was no longer mine to chase.